Pre-Millennium Signs, video number 7. So these are signs just prior to the end of the barley harvest and the opening of the 7th seal. This is really an important time. This is the transition from things being more understandable and the trials that you go through to things getting really miraculous, let's say, at this point onward. So let's start with a couple of things that happened in the Book of Mormon. So the Book of Mormon timeline during the barley harvest lines up based upon the dates. So we actually have dates for these. And Morgan Philpott does a really good job of lining a bunch of these up. But basically what we're looking for here is in the Book of Mormon timeline, it's only off by a year compared to our timeline. So let's say we're looking at year 26 in the Book of Mormon, because we started in the year 2000 to count instead of the year 2001. Their 26th year would be our 2025. So that's the way you can line things up between the Book of Mormon and our timeline. So if you look during this timeline, when is this? This is 3rd Nephi chapter 6. And you're going to look in verses 1 through 13. And this is where the people are spreading out after having been gathered together into one. So what is this? The Book of Mormon is a type for the second coming. The people spread out from one another and from God. Prosperity and ranks bring pride and selfishness. The people return to their old ways of life and thinking. So I think 2020 gave most of us a wake-up call as members of the church, people who are believers in God. I think people outside of those who believe in God, it probably was terrible, but maybe they didn't have the same effect on them. But for many people who are believers in God, this was a wake-up call and a time for repentance. So why is this going to happen? Well, when the people turn away from their repentance and separate themselves by ranks because of their prosperity and being delivered from destruction, then they're going to separate themselves from God. They're going to become selfish. So it's turning of a heart from God to our old ways. Where is this going to happen? So we definitely know that the Book of Mormon is a type for what's going to happen in America. So this could happen outside of that, but it's mainly America. So who is it? All the people in America who believe in God, I think, are really the ones this is going to happen to the most. So when is this going to happen? So this would be our years 2025 through 2027. So the mid to ends of the barley harvest here is when this is going to happen. So let's actually read it. It came to pass in the 29th year, there began to be some disputings among the people, and some were lifted up unto pride and boastings because of their exceedingly great riches, even unto great persecutions. There were many merchants in the land, and lawyers and officers, and the people began to be distinguished by ranks according to their riches and their chances for learning. Some were ignorant because of their poverty, and others did receive great learning because of their riches. Some were lifted up in pride, and others were exceedingly humble, and did return railing for railing, while others would receive railing and persecution and all manner of afflictions, and would not turn and revile again, but were humble and penitent before God. So this period of time is this separation. They're separating away from each other. They're spreading out. They're becoming kind of selfish. They're becoming prideful. They're not sharing as they did before. They have turned their hearts away from God. And so nothing bad has happened to them yet. In fact, they're actually prospering during this period. And so I think probably in a lot of ways, we're going to see prospering from 2025 to 2027, at least temporarily. And because of that, I think a lot of people are going to kind of go back to their old way of thinking in life and forget about the things they've been reading and turning their hearts to God, which happened especially in 2020 through 2023 when we were getting out of these lockdown situations. So the next thing, cities built anew. We just read through this, so we won't read it again, but basically this is interesting because this happens in our 2026. It says in the Book of Mormon, it's type for the second coming. Destroyed towns and areas will be rebuilt. For us, that will likely be as smart 15-minute cities. We've already been told that these are coming, and we see destructions in places like Lahaina and places in Canada and in Chile and elsewhere where these terrible fires come through, very kind of mysterious. No one knows why they happen. They haven't happened like that before and just destroy everything, which is a good excuse to rebuild. So there's going to be some kind of destructions or unrest, and the spreading out of the people to their previous lands means they need to rebuild those previous places. So for us, I think there's going to be some kind of unrest, or it could be these disasters that are happening that it's not clear what the source of that is, but it doesn't seem natural. Where is this going to happen? Certainly in the Americas, could be elsewhere. Who? It seems that the leaders are directing this rebuilding, and that's usually the case. It's the case here in the Book of Mormon. In our situation, and I think it'll be governments will direct this rebuilding. They've already said they're going to try to change things to this kind of smart city idea. So that's going to be a sign that we'll see in the Book of Mormon. All right, the rest of these signs just prior to the end of the barley harvest are primarily in Revelations chapter 6. And let's go ahead and read that just because it's going to set the stage for what this is. So in here, we're going to start in verse 12. Really important to understand is that these ideas of the 7 seals that exist in this book, in the book of Revelations that John sees. He sees this book. It's sealed in 7 sections. And we learn from the Doctrine and Covenants that these sections are each representative of 1,000 years of history on the earth. So the 6th seal is what we live in today. The 7th seal would be the millennium. And these are things that are going to happen during the 6th seal. So he opens the 6th seal here, and then these things happen. Now, there's some discussion over, well, wouldn't these things have happened at the opening of the 6th seal and not at the closing of it? Well, you read through these with me, and you may find some of them is possible that they happened. But if you look at all of them together, there's no way some of them already happened. And so that's why I believe all of these signs are kind of connected, and they're going to happen in a sequence right before the opening of the 7th seal, which is going to be the end of the barley harvest. And the 7th seal is what divides the barley harvest from the wheat harvest. So we can look at it here. The barley harvest will go here to October of 2027. At least that's the best date that I have for it right now. And it's when this opening of the 7th seal happens, that'll be the kickoff for the wheat harvest. So all of these things are the things that are going to happen right before that, in my opinion, or at least fairly close to the end of that. They haven't happened yet, so they're going to have to happen sometime during the 6th seal before the 7th happens. So when these happen, you know that the 7th seal can now be opened. So let's go to the first of these, which is this great earthquake. And of course, there have been many earthquakes, and they're more common now, it seems. But let's read about this particular earthquake. It says, and when I'd opened this, behold, when he had opened the 6th seal. So this is Christ. Christ is the one who opens the seals. No one else can do it. And lo, there was a great earthquake. Not just an earthquake, a great earthquake. And this earthquake could be a sequence of earthquakes, as we'll see. And then the rest of these things happen. So this is the very beginning. So I believe this is probably going to be a huge global earthquake or a set of earthquakes. They're great enough to change the face of the earth. So why is this going to happen? This sign heralds the end of the 6th seal and the coming of the 7th. So all the world, especially the saints, will know exactly the season that we're in. When you see this hit, we'll know, all right, the 7th seal can now open. So where is this going to be? I believe this is worldwide, although possibly it's going to be worse in the Americas. Who is this going to affect? I think all nations, but most severely the people here in the Americas. And when? Just prior to the opening of the 7th seal. So if you've read the book Visions of Glory, he has an event happen in this that is very, very similar to the sound of this, where he says it hits the Wasatch Front in late summer or early fall, and then later in the spring on the west coast of North and South America, detaching many coastal areas. So obviously, visions of glory is not the scriptures. It's not the quotes of prophets. So you have to take this with a grain of salt, but it does line up with this sixth seal great earthquake. All right. So here, sun darkened, moon is blood. Again, this is one you hear a lot of. Obviously, whenever we have an eclipse, people think of this. So there was one in 2024. A lot of people were watching for. So here in Revelation 6:12, it says, the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Okay, that could be an eclipse. But over here in the Americas, we're not due for a total eclipse at that point. This could also be caused by something else. So this sign, since it's mentioned many times, it can be something where it's harder to say when it's going to happen. Here we know it has to happen within the sixth seal. But there's also this fourth trumpet in Revelations 8:12 and also D&C 45:42 and D&C 29:14 that talk about very similar things. I'll read one of these just to go over it. But I say unto you, before this great day shall come, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall be turned into blood, and the stars shall fall from heaven. And by the way, that's a sign that's going to happen in the sixth seal as well. And there shall be greater signs in heaven above and in the earth beneath. I believe this sign of the sun being darkened and the moon turning to blood will happen several times, at least 2 or 3 times, I think, during the course of these tribulation years. I think this will be the kickoff time where it'll really happen. So why is this? It's likely because of the huge earthquake before the seventh seal. It's going to stir up tremendous amounts of dust and water. It's also a sign that the mists of darkness are spiritually covering the earth and a warning to the faithful. So where, it doesn't say, but as the earthquake was worldwide, and I'll show you later where I get that, it is likely that this is also seen worldwide, or at least over part of the earth. It just depends on how long it lasts. If it is dust and water thrown into the atmosphere, it could last for many days or weeks or even months. So this will affect all people worldwide when? Seems to be at the same time or shortly after the great earthquake, so likely in late 2027. I believe this will happen before the opening of the seventh seal, which is October. So this would be perhaps something in August or September. A good coinciding with an appointed time, like a Jewish holy day, would be in August. There's a holy day, which is, I believe, Tish B'Av, and that is a holy day of mourning. So that could be a good coinciding of an appointed time with one of these events. Again, there's not any scriptural evidence. That is simply my feeling that there's going to be a lot of aligning between these Jewish holy days and between some of these big signs. And you can look at Rhonda and Farrell Pickering's videos. They have great information about the appointed times, what they are, and how they think they connect in with these signs. All right, so the next is this stars fall to earth, heaven shaken. So really important to remember that in this scripture, these come one verse after another. So here's the earthquake in verse 12. Here is the sun and the moon in verse 12. And then in verse 13, the stars of heaven. So these things seem to be sequential and they could be connected. So I think they're likely connected. So what is this? Stars falling to earth, heaven shaken. So I believe this will be meteors or comets or the movement of the earth. The stars could seem to move or fall. This seems concurrent with the sun and moon being darkened, which could make it more likely to be visible. This could be like meteor showers, new comets appearing in the sky, or stars changing position as the earth moves out of its normal orbit. So this is similar to Daniel 2:34 and 35. This is the story that Daniel has of the stone, which is cut without hands. That's Christ. Christ is that stone. He's the cornerstone, the stone of stumbling. And he is that stone that's going to strike the feet of this golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar saw. And this golden image, is, at least the feet of it, is a representation of the nations built on Roman law. So it's our nations today. And it brings down those nations. So a disaster of this level could be the beginning of that fall of the nations. So likewise, the first 3 trumps will herald the beginning of the end for nations on earth. Both scriptures also have a wind which blows away the pieces of these nations. So the wind is a symbol of the Assyrian, or the horn, or the mouth, the bad guy who leads the armies of the beast and brings them together. It also says the heavens depart as a scroll in Revelation 6:14. So this is kind of one of those ones that I don't think you can really tie to a time that's already happened. So it says, the stars of heaven fell to the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. So that could be these meteor showers or comets, meteors coming down. Somebody could say, yeah, that could happen. These things could happen. But the heavens departing as a scroll when it's rolled together, that one, it's a little tougher. I don't think anyone has documented that. I mean, some people might say, well, that was maybe the Kirtland Temple or Joseph Smith seeing God the Father and Jesus Christ. So this is together with this next sign. I think it's clear that these things are related. They're in the same verse. They come together along with these other things. My feeling is these are all connected and they haven't happened yet. So this idea of the heavens departing as a scroll is also described in Isaiah 34:4, where it says the heavens are dissolved, rolled as a scroll, and fall down. Psalms 102:25-26 describe it as God changing the earth and the heavens. But this time as easily as changing clothes. So it's something that could happen, maybe not just a single event, but could happen at least 2 times, possibly 3 in the last few years before the millennium fully kicks in. So one of these times would be here, just in the 6th seal. One of these times could be at Christ's first appearance of the second coming in the New Jerusalem. And another one could be later at his second coming to the world. So anyways, these are the things that are happening. Stars falling to the earth, heaven shaken. These are right after these earthquakes and the sun and moon being darkened. They could be concurrent. To give you another idea, this is Revelation 6:13 and 14. This idea of heavens departing as a scroll, you can see here, and there's the quote in Isaiah, and all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. So there's the phrase. And all the hosts shall fall down. So that's this idea of the stars of the heaven falling to the earth, as the leaf falleth off the vine and as the falling fig from the fig tree. So it's pretty obvious here that Isaiah and John the Revelator are speaking about a very similar event, if not the same event. And so this is interesting. Here in the footnotes, it also ties this to D&C 8895, which says, and there shall be a silence in the heaven for half an hour, and immediately after shall the curtain of heaven be unfolded, and the scroll is unfolded after it is rolled up, and the face of the Lord shall be unveiled. So this is, I think, that second time when the heavens are unfolded as a scroll. This is the one right when Christ appears in the New Jerusalem. But same kind of event. This is why I think it happens more than once. All right, so why is this going to happen? So God promises that the heavens are for a sign and seasons for us. So this is a heavenly sign or warning. Especially this seems like a warning that the first 3 trumpets are about to sound. It seems to be for our good and his glory. So if you look here, TNC 21:6, this is really important to realize. For by doing these things, the gates of hell shall not prevail against you. Yea, the Lord will disperse the powers of darkness from before you and cause the heavens to shake for your good and his name's glory. So some of these signs are not necessarily bad. I mean, this idea of the heavens opening and being shaken could actually be a really good sign. This could be something that the faithful see with great joy, especially amidst some of these more difficult and negative ones, like the earthquake and the sun and moon being darkened. So where is this going to be? This is likely worldwide, or depending on how quickly it passes, at least over half of the earth where it's nighttime, so you could see the stars falling and the heavens moving and being shaken. So everyone who's outside could see it to some degree. When this seems concurrent or at the same time as the earthquake and the changes to the sun and moon. So this is, let's read it here in Hebrews. Whose voice then shook the earth. But now he hath promised, saying, yet once more I shake not the earth only, but also the heaven. So there again, this is Christ saying that his voice has shaken the earth, but he will once more, meaning the future, and this is Hebrews in the New Testament, he will shake not only the earth, that's that big earthquake in the sixth seal, but also the heavens. So those are those two signs we were just talking about, the earthquake shaking the earth and the heavens being shaken here. So all in Revelations chapter 6. All right. So also in this verse 14 is this next sign of this mountains and islands. Every mountain and island were moved out of their place. Now that one, as far as I know, within this 6,000 year period, which is from say roughly 1,000 something to 2,000 something, there hasn't been all the mountains and islands being moved out of their place anywhere in history. So I believe this is the conclusive one that makes me think it hasn't happened yet, and it will happen, has to happen before the end of the sixth seal. So we know that's something that's still to come. So we'll go back and look at this sign. All right. And also, if you look at Isaiah 51:6, this places the event before the gathering of Zion. So in Isaiah 51:11, it says that Zion's going to be gathered. And so it actually has this interesting detail that the heavens will vanish away like smoke. Very interesting little details in each of these. So, all right, this is the big one here. Every mountain and island move. I believe this is from the earthquake and possibly this heavens being shaken and the falling of these stars and comets. Every mountain and island move. That is humongous. That's going to be why this is a world-changing devastation. So this great earthquake and shaking the heavens are such that the whole surface of the earth is changed. And once again, if you read Visions of Glory, his experience of that largely coincides with this idea of kind of a worldwide earthquake and effects of that. Once again, Visions of Glory, not scripture, not a prophet or apostle saying it, but I think if you take these things and look and see if they fit into scriptures and the words of prophets and apostles, then you can say, all right, maybe I can give this a little more weight. So he talks about in Visions of Glory this idea of new islands and sea trenches opening, splitting the west coast and the Mississippi Valley into seaways. Mountains and islands are both mentioned. It seems that this is to create a more habitable Eden-like earth. So this is a thing that's harder for us to understand. We look at all these things like every mountain being moved and islands being moved and huge earthquakes as a bad thing. It's like God's angry with us. But in reality, this is the end of the old world, the world of the first 6,000 years, a world that was mortal and fallen, and one where we're moving back into a terrestrial world. So this is the end of the telestial and the beginning of the terrestrial. So God's remodeling. He is starting to transition the earth to this more beautiful, habitable place. So keep that in mind through some of these difficult ones. So why would this happen? This signals that to the world that this is not just another earthquake. It's a sign that the world is changing forever. It signals the end of an age and the beginning of a new one. There's a footnote in Isaiah 24:19 that links to this earth renewal of. So it's something that, let's read it here. The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard and shall be removed like a cottage. And the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. So if you look at this, it says moved, earth renewal of. So it's again, there's a positive to this. It's not just a bad sign. The faithful will be able to see that. So where is this? It says every mountain and island. So this seems to affect the entire world, although some areas it might be more devastation than others, who God does this. He uses earthquakes. And this causes fear among even the kings and great men of the earth, causing them to hide in bunkers. When this happens at the same time or shortly after the great earthquake, seemingly as a result of it, that's why I would guess it's a result of the earthquake. Because there's time to hide, there may be a series of earthquakes or events separated by days, weeks, months, or even years. In Revelation 16, 17 to 21, in other words, there's another great earthquake, which divides Jerusalem at the time of Christ's second coming there too. So it doesn't mean that's the end of the earthquakes. It just means at least there's a great one in this end of the sixth seal. And this is what it's going to cause people to do here. This is the seventh one we're going to go over, and the last one for this video. This is Revelation 6, 15 through 17. So let's go read that. So 15 through 17, and the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every free man. So this sounds like pretty much everybody who could, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. That sounds like bunkers to me. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Now, this is not the coming of Christ to the world. So that's later on, because remember, this is only Revelation 6 and the sixth seal. So if you go to Revelation 7, that's the opening of the seventh seal. So these are things that are going to happen when the sixth seal is ending. And I really think that this is going to be a big one, that it's going to be hard to not see this. And, why is this going to be happening? Because, well, fear is a natural result of sin, of ignorance of God's true character, that he's love, and a lack of preparation. So yeah, people will be fearful and they'll hide. So this seems to be global, as it says, every free man, who it's the people of the world, perhaps even many of the saints. And this happens during the sixth seal. So brothers and sisters, I just want to give you my testimony that I know that the scriptures are true. They are Christ's words. They come through his prophets. These we can have absolute faith in. I'm just a member of his church. I am a disciple of his. I don't have any special abilities, but I hope that by reading these scriptures, you will look for these kind of signs when they come, and you'll remember these scriptures and say, God knew it. He prophesied it was going to happen. He can get us through this, because he will. And I hope it will increase your faith as you see these signs happening and as you recognize that the scriptures are there and God's going to be there with us. I mean, here's a good example. Moses 7:61, he says, my people will I preserve. This is a great way to end it here. And the day comes that the earth and the day shall come that the earth shall rest. But before that day, the heavens shall be darkened, and the veil of darkness shall cover the earth, and the heavens shall shake, and also the earth, and great tribulation shall be among the children of men. But my people will I preserve. So understand that God has a way. Listen to the Spirit. The Holy Spirit is going to guide you what you need to do. And that could be different from what I need to do. But God has a way to preserve you. And you need to prepare as much as you can, spiritually as well as temporally. But God has a way to prepare you and to help you and preserve you. So don't be fearful of these things. Be looking forward with faith, and God will be with us. In this next video, video number 8, I'm going to go over the timeline again from some new inspiration that I felt that has helped me look and organize it a little bit better. I'll go through that, and I'll go through the wheat harvest. So from this opening of the seventh seal, so we'll go from here and start going into what these things are that happen, these good things that we can look forward to, because there's a lot of them. So I look forward to that time. In the meantime, get into these scriptures and start reading them for yourself and receive your own direction from God.